Mayor Hancock announced on Friday that a committee will be formed to consider if Denver should submit a bid to host the Olympics or the Paralympics in the future. Patty, the Olympics in Colorado have not had a very good relationship. Back in the 70s, it was about we didn't want this kind of growth. It really propelled Dick Lamb to office. What makes Denver or state officials think that it's going to be different now?
Well, and I think it's very different, but they don't understand just how mad people are here. We put up a story this morning about 9 as soon as this announcement came out, and within minutes we had dozens of comments from people who were very upset. The same people who were upset about Amazon, they're upset about this. Denver's in the middle of a huge number of projects. You've got the $1 billion stock show project right close to this office. I went to one of their announcements this week, and it's very ambitious. It's going to, I think, be a good thing ultimately, but it's going to screw up that part of town for a long time. You've got the convention center expanding. They just announced the architect on that Fentress is going to be back. Performing Arts Complex is going to expand. We have all these projects, and now we're going to, obviously, in order to get the Olympics, we're going to have a sweet bid that would be somehow subsidizing them, and that was part of the problem back in the early 70s. It was who pays, who profits, and people were upset, not just with Colorado growing then, but upset with who was going to make the money off the Olympics. And since then, Olympics have become even tougher to figure out how to pay for them. So you can't see any deal that Denver and Colorado would offer that isn't going to peeve taxpayers.
David, I had the great honor of driving on a road trip this summer to drive through Calgary. And it was a beautiful town, got into the beautiful mountains, a lot like Denver, where they're right next to great mountain resorts. And it was a little weird seeing part of their Olympic legacy there, but kind of being almost like a skeleton as you drive by, not part of the cityscape anymore. It doesn't seem like Denver and Denverites, as Patty mentioned, are going to want this. So I guess, why would officials want to even try to form this committee?
Because Mayor Hancock, I think, is, in this respect, very out of touch with public sentiment, and his spree of corporate welfare, I guess he's trying to figure out what he can do to top that. I think he's runaway winner for worst idea of the year. And in fact, I'd say if he sticks with this and this becomes an issue, he may have done the one thing that actually, if he seeks re-election, could really harm him. The International Olympic Committee is right up there with FIFA, the governing body for world soccer, as one of the most corrupt sporting organizations, or any organization in the world. I mean, they could be Russian oligarchs for how they're run.
That's kind of offensive to oligarchs, by the way.
IOC demands an immense amount of welfare, not only for the Olympics themselves, but even when you come in to bid, how much you have to grovel for them, keep the rooms at a certain temperature, supply them with all kinds of goodies. It's a horrible, horrible organization. The Olympians are great people, but the IOC is awful. And as Patty said, all these, we're going to build this great infrastructure that's going to help, and we'll be able to use it forever. Just go to Rio and Beijing and on and on and on. All these places are crumbling. We don't need really a world-class speed skating facility in Denver to be a great city, and that's the least of the amount of money that would be wasted. The voters overwhelmingly, thanks to Dick Lamb's leadership, rejected in the 1970s the idea of using taxpayer money to pay off the International Olympic Committee.
Eric, as much as I personally love the sport of curling, and I do, I'm actually not making a joke, I love curling, I don't think we need an actual curling arena here in Denver, but perhaps I'm being cynical. Do you think there is maybe a silver lining, a bright side of this that perhaps we're not looking at?
Where is your civic pride, Dominic? You do not want a world-class curling arena right here in our fair Mile High City. I'm shocked. I don't know what there is terribly to add. I think Patty and David have done a good job setting this one up. It seems like Michael Hancock hadn't been reading the paper or watching the TV. He's missed the whole thing about Amazon. He's missed the whole thing more recently about Ink Coffee, which obviously was a small deal that blew up into a big deal. All of these are symptoms of the same issue. The issue is the disconnect, as we've talked before, between this elite opinion at the Hancock governmental, civic, business leadership level and where most people are. I don't know what the IOC, I still can't imagine that the IOC is going to receive this terribly favorably. In the history of the modern Olympics, there's only been one state that has said thank you but no thank you, and that is the state of Colorado back in 1972 vis-a-vis the 1976 Winter Games. Why would you want to replay that bit of history? All it would take, I don't know if it's the 5 of us or any group of 5 people, to sit around and talk about forming a committee to put this on the ballot. You wouldn't even have to put it on the ballot. All you would have to do is get a Denver Post headline about an initiative in formation, and I think the IOC runs screaming. And I got to believe it's not the 5 of us, but there are 5 people out there talking about it.
Penn, I have to imagine that your phone is called several times by people in the community looking for some advice, looking for sage advice from somebody with a lot of experience. If the people on this committee give you a call and say, Penn, what do you think? What advice do you offer?
Make sure that the operative word is should. Based on the release, I think it says something about a committee to examine should a bid be considered. And if it should be done, you should talk to a whole lot of people in this town and in these neighborhoods. And what I think you'll hear is what Eric said and what we've talked about time after time on this show. There feels like there is an immense disconnect between sentiment in the neighborhoods, sort of at the grassroots level, and policies that are being adopted. You know, you've got to do economic development to keep a community vibrant. Nobody disagrees with that. And you've got to lead. You can't always follow. So you have to sort of set the pace, but you've also got to be in touch with your constituency and your community. And there is a sense of disconnection that's probably stronger than I've seen here over the past 20 years. And so if this committee does anything, it ought to talk to a whole bunch of folks, not just people in elected or appointed positions or captains and colonels of industry, but get down to Swansea, Elyria, and a bunch of other communities and see what people think about this.